Hi everyone, welcome back to another Math 9 video. Today we're doing 8.3. Again, this is in the chapter on statistics, and this is called the measure of central tendency. I believe some of this is going to be a review for you. I would say the most common word you probably know with respect to central tendency is the word average. So I believe you calculated average last year. So it's nice that you'll be able to review a little bit. And if not, don't worry, we're going to go through it all together anyways. So there are actually three different measures of central tendency. The first one is called mean, which is like the average that I was just talking about. So if you know of the word average, that is the same thing as this, and that one you have learned about last year most likely. The next one is called median, and I'm going to show you using this example what each of these mean, but right now I'll just sort of talk about them a little bit. So mean is one way to check. If you have a list of numbers, we would add them all together and divide by the total number that we have in order to get the mean. For number 2, for the median, we would list the numbers from smallest to largest, and we would look for the number that's right in the middle. So if, for example, you had, let's say, 3 different values to work with, you would pick the second one to be your median, once you've arranged them smallest to largest. If, however, you had 4 of them, well, there isn't one that's right in the middle, so you would take the 2 that are in the middle, number 2 and number 3, and you would add those 2 values together and divide by 2 to get what the median is. I'll show you with the example anyway, so you don't need to worry too much. And then this next one is called mode. This is the last one that we have. Mode is basically the value in your list of numbers. Mode is the value that shows up the most number of times, the one that is the most frequent. So I'll show you what I mean with this example that we're going to dive right into, and I'll color code it as usual so you can keep track of which is which, but I will read this to you and then we'll get right into the example. It says, use the following test scores to determine the mean, median, and mode of Miss Baines' Math 9 class in 2017. Scores are listed as percentages out of 100. And instead of using names, I've just used letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up to J. So those different letters would represent students. So you can assume I've taken just the first letter of people's names. Okay, so in order to make things a little bit easier for us to work with, I've already arranged them in order from smallest to largest. So notice how the values go up. No, I haven't. My mistake. I didn't put them smallest to largest. They're just random according to how they showed up in my class. So you can take a look at what the values are here. We start with 62, 75, 82, so they're sort of jumping everywhere. But I want to use this to calculate our first measure of central tendency, which is the mean. So in this case, I don't need them to be in numerical order from smallest to largest. What I do need to do is add these all. So 62 plus 75 plus this plus this. So I'm just going to take a shortcut while we're doing this, but you'll get the idea. You can use a calculator for this. I know we don't normally use a calculator, but I don't want you to sit there and add out all these values by hand. I know you all know how to add. That would be a waste of your time. I want you to focus on the actual skill. So don't worry about having to do that by hand. Go ahead and use a calculator. Once we add those all together, I'm just going to give you the answer, but what I would suggest is pause the video, do that yourselves, count up the number of values we have, and you would get 835 when you add all of these values from A to J all together. And we have 10 different values here. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, on and on to the bottom would be 10. So basically after doing this, we would find that our average or our mean is 83.5. So I'm going to circle that because that's our answer for the first portion. So that would be us calculating the mean or the average. Okay, so then the median, I had talked about this with you, that we would want to go through these values and now we need to arrange them from smallest to largest. So I will rewrite these and we'll go in order. So I'd pick out the smallest. We have 62, then we have 75, and then we have 77. That shows up a few times. 77, and then we have 82, and then we have 90, which shows up a few times. 90, 90, and there's another 90. And then we have a 94 and a 98. So there's our values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good idea to double check to make sure we haven't missed out on anything. And then once we have them all listed, in order to get the median, well, this is like the example I was talking about where we have an even number of values. We have 10 values in total. So I'm not going to have just one number in the middle. I'm going to have two numbers that are in the middle. So what I mean is when I go through and I count these, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically these two that are in the middle are together like my middle term. So if I had only 9 values, then I would pick the fifth value. But because I don't have 9 values, I have 10, I'm going to pick the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th and 6th value. So to, again, make this super clear, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms on this side, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms on this side of the two that are chunked together in the middle. So now I take those two that are chunked together in the middle, and I basically find the mean or the average of those two. So I would do 82 plus 90, and I would divide that by 2 to get the average or the mean of those two. So when I do that, I would find that my median is 86. So you're starting to see the difference here. They're pretty close, these values. So 86 would be the measure of central tendency for median, and this one would be 83.5 for mean. So they're pretty close. It gives you a sense of how these work. And then to get to the last one, mode, we would still use these values that are listed smallest to largest. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but basically we're trying to find the value that shows up most frequently. I'm going to write that down. Most frequent value. So what do I mean by that? I mean, I look at these and I think, okay, which one shows up the most number of times? When I go through and look at this, I have 90, 90, and 90, and I don't think there's any other one that shows up 3 times, the same value showing up 3 times. The only other one is 77 and 77, but that's only twice. So basically, my mode, after looking at this, is the one that shows up the most number of times, so it's going to be 90. Okay, so I hope that you found that helpful. I am going to get you to do numbers 1 to 11 all for this section, and that's it for today.